Bob Nutting is risk averse and he's still losing money? That's what's up on Bowser Sports as we recap the DK Pittsburgh Pirates special reports on their finances from 2024. And I want to start off actually helping everyone kind of learn a little bit about the Pirates finances. I want to take you back to 2010, Deadspin, and eventually the AP leaked. I had basically received a leak of the Pirates' finances. And let's just, look at 2008 to start, right? And I got here with the arrow showing their operating revenue in 2008. They were making money, operating income, obviously before interest income and expenses and other fun things. They had a profit over $21 million before all that fun stuff. And grand total, audited books, as you can see, even after you take everything out, they had a net income of $14.4 million. And that is what has set the stage from 2010 to present as to why myself, why DK, and many others who observe the Pirates over the years have said they just make money every year, low payroll, high revenue. There you go, right? Now, I was understanding enough that there was a lot more to organizing a franchise and running a sport and running a baseball team and all those type of things, and it was a lot more complex than simply player expenses. And we'll get into that in a minute, but I want to also show you here on the screen is the Braves, who are a publicly traded company. So their financials have to come out every quarter, and what you're showing here is their year end of 24, and they had reported $595 million in baseball revenue. But if you come down and you look at the mixed use, which is the battery park, and you kind of ignore that because that's not counted toward the baseball activities. And so they had the 595 from a revenue perspective. Their baseball operating costs were 504 million. Now, you see that number and you compare it to the Pirates or the DK Sports report, which we'll get in a second. Whoa, we're really off. They got way more revenue and they got way more expenses. So what's going on? The big thing between the two teams clearly is payroll from an expense perspective. But there's a lot more to it. And also, I would expect the one line item on here that didn't really get called out too much when this came out on the Braves side is the 109 million on general expenses and things that they go on to running a team, right, a business. And so some of that I would think was also part of the baseball costs, but not specific to the team. So I would think they probably had to pay a little bit into that. And so we got a chance to get into the details on that DK Pittsburgh Sports report, and the revenues here, they're shown just under 147 million. Both the Post Gazette and DK reported that the Pirates' revenues from a gate perspective with tickets and suite and concessions was just under $85 million. They had 1.7 million in attendance. That really comes out to from a team marketing report in Sportico. They had reported the team's average ticket price was $26. And so really, when you look at those numbers, the team's making just under $50 a fan that comes in that park, both ticket and and concession. So not near the top of the league, and so the Pirates have a long way to go to get just even the average range when it comes to total costs. The report also talked about the local TV deal, and that was a really big one, I think, to look at the math, right? The Pirates currently are with Sportsnet Pittsburgh, who's owned by Fenway Sports Group. Fenway Sports Group owns the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is why that deal was consummated from a local perspective. But Bob Nutting also had the relationship himself with John Henry and Tom Warner from Fenway Sports Group, who happened to run a local broadcast Nesson in the Boston, New England area, which is also the ownership group of the Boston Red Sox. And so the Pirates have taken a $25 million hit in revenue starting last year as a result of that local TV deal. And so those regional sports networks and all those ones that kind of collapsed in teams, the Pirates were one of 9 teams to take a hit. That included the Astros, the Diamondbacks, the Guardians, Mariners, Padres, Rangers, Rockies, and Twins. All 9 teams were likely going to be receiving some kind of distribution. DK and his team estimated around 8.33 out of that 75, so that was the per team distribution from an estimate perspective. But the Pirates also had other revenue. They had ballpark signage, their naming rights, spring training, concerts, other events at PNC Park. They have they have the parking, which is surprisingly only 200,000, and that should be really a key point to people that read that article. But also just hearing this, the Brewers had $20 million previously expected from a revenue, and they're drawing between 2.5, 3 million fans, and so the Pirates are losing out on attendance perspective. They're losing out on parking perspective. They're losing out on the grand total of everything from attendance with the concessions. And so the Pirates are taking a hit, and we'll get to the attendance in a few minutes here. Also from a revenue perspective, national revenues, and it's not, everyone hears this, oh, they've got all this revenue sharing. Well, let me just explain something, and this is something that I knew about, and really good job of DK to mention. The baseball teams, from a local revenue perspective, minus some stadium expenses, they subtract that out of their total earnings. So that, let's just say 84 million, the 25 million, the 36 million, right? That grand total, just under 147 million. 48% of that goes into a virtual pool of local revenue sharing, and all the teams put their money in, and then divide by 30. All 30 clubs get an equal share of that amount. So each team's getting, I think, $121 million. Well, if the Pirates are a low revenue team, it stands to reason that they didn't put in 121 million. And so what the net was they gave basically 70 and they got back 51. So in total, that 120 number really was only a net of 51. It's a really important thing because people see that revenue sharing number and think, oh, they should be, making, a lot of money, and they should be having way more from a payroll perspective. And it's just not reality in the team's current situation, again, especially because of the local TV contract. I'm going to stress it here for everyone to hear. DK's report was talking about 2024 for the most part. The team admitted about losing money because of COVID and probably because of the bad performance of the team in 17 and 18. 19 probably, 2020 obviously, 2021 again they cut payroll huge. So like I think 21, 22, and 23 they probably didn't lose much money in those 3 years because they made a lot more back because they had way low from an expense perspective and still had high revenues from a revenue sharing perspective, from a local TV, from a national TV and local TV perspective. So that's it with the revenues that I wanted to kind of hit on. And then, from an expense perspective, I kind of mentioned it, but, player salaries is not it. That you've got benefits you got to pay into, which is 17 million. You've got the pre-arbitration pool, which is just under 2 million. And so a good number to kind of look at this is what percentage, and you'll hear this from the players, what percentage of the revenue is being spent on the players. And on the Pirates' perspective, just from a calculation that's of publicly available data, that's CBT 40-man cost. That's what that analysis is going by. That's what I would go by, because again, we don't have pure cash numbers, right? And so the estimate is 41.73%. Players want to be near 50. Well, the players union, you're not going to get 50% because it costs a lot to run a baseball team. And if you didn't read it, and you can see on this diagram here, this page here, is All other costs were $172 million basically. Dwarfs what they spent in 40 man. And so obviously again, they could have come out on head if their local TV deal was still 50 million. They would have had an operating income, but positive operating income. But the non-baseball costs from a player perspective, you still got minor league players. You still have draft, international signing bonuses. You have minor league spending that's increased by at least $10 million since the 22 CBA with the players. Baseball operations has increased for almost 20, 30 people, and I believe from what I've read is and looked at the media guide, it appears the team has significantly grown in the baseball ops again. DK has mentioned that, and so there's a lot here to the team to run the franchise. Now, baseball overall appears to be air quote healthy because of 12.1 billion, but the Pirates are losing money on a below average payroll, right? And they're still losing money. The Twins are for sale, and they just got reported of $425 million that they're in debt. And so, just a little bit of a breakdown to help people. Sportico has reported, and some common data shows that the local revenues generate about 63% of Major League Baseball's overall revenue, so 7.6 billion. As I mentioned, 48% of that goes into this virtual local revenue pool, and the teams get just under $122 million. Really interesting piece, actually two pieces that were reported over the winter, talked about the Marlins and A's separately and never connected the two in the articles, and I don't think I've actually seen anyone kind of put the math together here, but the Marlins and A's were separately reported to need to make at least $105 million in their 40-man CBT for this 2025 season, because the CBA has what's called the 150% rule, and that is your net amount of your local revenue sharing. You need to spend 150% of that as a minimum payroll to justify Major League Baseball Players Association not to basically, they can't go in and look at your finances basically. But if you don't have that 150%, you're going to need to justify why and explain why you didn't spend up the 150% on the 40-man costs. So if you take the math and if you're saying, well, if you have to get 105, the math's pretty simple, then you needed $70 million, which means the A's and Marlins were $70 million net recipients of local revenue sharing. The Pirates were only 51.6 million as a net recipient. That means the Marlins A's got more money than the Pirates. So I think that was really important to call out here, because the Pirates spent 123 million basically in 24 with their amount of money. So they're okay. They're safe, because 150% of that 51 is not going to be 123. All right, national TV revenues. We're really going to be curious to see and track this over the summer and what happens with Major League Baseball as ESPN's backing out of their deal, the last 3 option years of the deal. So that's a lot of money that the baseball teams are going to be losing, and they're hoping to make that up in some other manner. Do they go to another cable deal? Are they going to do some kind of internet packages and spread that money out? So we'll watch that and see what's going on. League sponsorship, they bragged about that last year, about 1.9 billion. So you take all that money told, that leaves you merchandise and some other kind of things. 745 million. So kind of using DK's report and kind of backing into some of these numbers, was able to kind of look at this. And really important to come up here, we got the CBA expiring December 1st, 2026. We're not that far away. Be really curious if the players go on strike, or do the owners lock them out after the CBA? So do the players And I believe this is what's going to happen. I think the players are going to try to use leverage and go on strike before the 2026 World Series, probably before the playoffs. So probably well before that. So I would think um, we are probably going to see the last full season of baseball here in 2025. And that's because the players are going to see these numbers of, oh, geez, if you just minimally project, again, let's take out the U.S. economy and the politics and the things that are going on, but let's just say we see a 2% year over year increase. So this year's revenues will go from 12.1 billion to this year to 12.34, and then if we still have a full year in 26, you're talking about $12.5 billion as an industry, and we still have teams like the Pirates and Twins, the Marlins, the A's, who are losing money or not spending enough on payroll. We have a big problem. It's not organized well enough in the CBA to require things. There's no floor, and that's because revenue sharing is not complete. It's unfair with the Dodgers. Not all of their local TV money is required to be paid as part of that calculation. And so we will see what happens here over the next year and a half before that CBA expires. Now, I had alluded to about the attendance and the Pirates attendance here, and I wanted to put the chart, and it doesn't look great, but I wanted to put in here because ultimately the two things I believe the Pirates need to do is they need to win to make their fans happy. They need to commit to winning to make their fans happy. They need to do it in the winter of the offseason to generate excitement, trade for players, go sign a player or two, get big name players to augment your younger team to win now. If the Pirates had gone out and went and said, hey, Juan Soto, we want to give you $50 million. We want you to become the face of Roberto Clemente's franchise. We need you. Now, he's not going to be the guy to come here because he's probably the New York guy. But there are players, there were plenty of players in this free agency. There were opportunities to get some good bats in the lineup, and the Pirates did nothing. They acquired a first baseman who needs to be a platoon first baseman in Spencer Horwitz. And so when you're so risk averse that you have a business model such as Bob Nutting has, that I need to see you win and be in the position of winning, because we win, we know attendance will go up. When we have that money from attendance, we will spend it to augment that winning team by the deadline to try to make the playoffs and go far. That is the Bob Nutting baseball model. That is not Ben Cherington. That is Bob Nutting. That's not Travis Williams. But both of those guys, Williams and Cherington, can't execute their own plan to make things better. They have failed to show Nutting the way to win in sports. And if you can't convince your owner or your superiors of a good plan to make things better, you need to do a better job in the minimal requirements of your job, such as player development and all those other things that go on that they completely botch year after year. And so in this chart, I wanted to illustrate, as you see in 2024, the Pirates had 84.8 million in gate revenue. That's 49.29. Let's just say the Pirates increased their ticket prices for this year, which based upon, if you look at opening day, good luck getting in the ballpark for less than $100 unless you get it on the off market. The Pirates are charging over $100 per ticket for opening day against the Yankees. I would fully expect to see special pricing on game days where Paul Skeens pitches. That's the right thing to do. It stinks as a baseball fan, but from a business perspective, and this team needs to make money, they have to do it this way. They need to increase their prices. But the fans, to make it worth their while, need to see what? They need to see a product on the field that can win. And so I don't feel that the Pirates are going to be in the position this year to win. They don't have a good team. They don't have any hitters coming up to augment this group of hitters that they currently have on the 26-man roster. You're not going to get much out of Henry Davis as a 1-1 terrible draft pick. You are what you are. But on this chart, to go back to this, if the Pirates on the version 3 of 2025, if they could just get the attendance figure that they had in their record season at PNC Park at just under 2.5 million fans, that is only a park capacity of 80% over the season. But as you can see here in the numbers, attendance versus PNC Park capacity, PNC Park has only been at 58% capacity. Under Nutting, it's actually worse since 2007. It's 57%. Since that record year of 15 through last year, it's 54%. And that excludes the 2020 season. And so the Pirates need to increase attendance. And the only way to do that is win or increase your season ticket base by generating the off-season excitement to build up early sales, so that if you have a good team, you're already at a strong base. Or if you have a bad team, you still have a good base to collect off of that. You're going to see more and more analysis on the Pirates situation, because people are going to say, hold on a second, they would have made money if the local TV deal wasn't 25, but it should have been 50. They'll make more money as baseball revenues continue to grow. But what are you doing to reinvest it? What are you doing to deficit spend? They're not purposely deficit spending. They're actually expecting to reasonably break even from a few $1,000,000 in positive operating income. But because the teams have been bad, their attendance doesn't go up throughout the season. You have to make trades to get rid of players because you don't want to keep losing money. And it's a really hard thing to do that right now and catch attention of people that you're cutting payroll when you don't have a big payroll and you're not trading away your stars because, air quote, you're building to something. But Charrington clearly is building to, I don't even know what he's building to at this point. And so being risk averse, being unable to understand the sport, the importance of the off season, the importance of an open day payroll that's competitive, and not, well, I'm going to wait until June or July. Well, it's too late. You've lost an opportunity to capture revenue in the first half of the season. 40-some games, you've lost opportunity to draw even more fans at the start, at the base of your business. These are very simple business things that the newspaper man can't figure out. This was a longer episode today. Been wanting to do this for a long time. Unfortunately, I've been out for a few weeks. My daughter was at the Cleveland Clinic over the last 3 weeks for her medical conditions, and so we were spending there. And I want to thank all those who helped our family and the Ronald McDonald House and the charities for helping our family there. So if you are able to, please donate to the Ronald McDonald House. It's an outstanding charity, great volunteers. And so now that we're back home in Pittsburgh, we'll be doing more of these shows and kind of talking through things. So with that, thank you for listening. If you like today's episode, please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe and leave a comment. Until next time, have a good one.